Good morning, everyone. This is Thursdays with Franco. Franco is with us, but he's just going to watch today, so that's interesting. Presumably, we're going to get a feedback from him afterwards about how well we did. So this is Stuart Coggins. I'm in Sydney, and as usual, Thursdays with Franco, where we talk all things autonomous and Apex and data and just general conversations around how we make use of data. Last week we had a really interesting conversation. It was kind of a little bit of a diversion from the normal discussions, where we talked a little bit about the roving edge device and how cool that could be in sort of remote use cases. Today we're going to go back a little bit into some Apex use cases, because as some of you will know, we have an activity here that we call the Red Book, and it's a bit of an update on all things OCI. The thing is that it's constantly changing, which is a good thing. Changing data, we're adding things to it all the time. You'll notice lots of announcements coming out. So we try and keep the Red Book up to date with these announcements. The other thing that we've done is we've got a bit of a project going on around how do we learn more about some of these announcements? How do we learn more about some of these use cases, about using data, that sort of thing. But what it's given us is a bit of a headache because of the amount of data that we're playing with. So today, we're going to look at how do we implement filters in Apex so that we can get to the data we need quickly and efficiently. And so, talking of efficiently, over to Mr. Lowe and Fauzi to tell us all about filters.
Oh, thanks, Cogs. That's a great segue and great transition. As it says up on screen, we're sort of looking at filters in different ways. So Fauzi, you're doing all the work around not the Red Book, the Black Book. So we've got the Black Book that we're actually doing these kind of different updates and different articles and demos that we've actually got there. But in terms of what you're building, what's been one of the main challenges, as Stuart sort of made mention about the number, but what other challenges are you seeing in terms of the content and the filtering that you need to solve?
Yeah, so one of the things is there's various ways of, as Stuart said, to efficiently find information. Now, taking that at the moment, the data is not that huge, but what came across my mind is as the data grows, how do you actually efficiently search information? And smart filters was one of the search capabilities in Apex that I came across and I really liked, because it uses some differentiators, I guess, in terms of having some search suggestions, as well as search. You can search through from whether it's free text or across rows, across columns, etc., not just singular columns. So that's what I found was very easy.
So Fauzi, do you mind bringing it up on the screen? Because you actually got, you're going to go through and show us a bit about what the smart search filter looks like and go through an exercise of how do you actually do that. So can you just show us what a smart filter looks like so we know what kind of thing we're dealing with?
Yeah, no, it's always better to show than talk about it. I will. So what you see on your screen, just let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep.
On behalf of our leader, can you make it a little bit bigger, please? Actually, on behalf of me as well.
Oh, so. My goodness. Okay, sure. Is it better? Let me just go.
Zoom. That's better. Perfect. Look at that. I know it's messed up your links a little bit, but...
Okay. Function F11. I'll just extend. Is that better?
Yep.
Cool. So what you see on your screen is a search bar, which you normally see in any of the search filters capability you see out there. What's different is below the search bar are all these little search suggestions, what we call as chips. So it also provides us context of what we're immediately seeing on the screen. So, for example, we can see that most of the assets have got a demo status of a count of 28. We know that the demo tags associated to those assets, the most is 5. for OCI L3, which stands for Level 3 integration. Who's been updating the most has been our fearless leader, Franco, and he's also owned the top ones. So the way we interact with these chips, if you like, is if you click on any of the labels of these chips, you'll actually then be able to actually select ones that are specific to the demo tags, or you can go directly into and click on the value, and that will actually automatically filter it. Okay, so the other thing that you can do is then go in and again, choose more data if you like. So I'll just choose a couple of more information to display on the screen. Let me choose this one as well, Apex, and then start to add more search criteria to narrow down what I'm trying to actually look for. So I'm looking at some of the demo assets across the demo tags, and I can go in and type maybe Apex. So as I'm typing, you'll see if I go back, it's already intelligently offering suggestions or context of what you might want to be looking for. So I'll just do Apex, and then from there, I might want to then go in and click and also add in, I want to narrow down the search even further to say I'm really focused on what Darren's been doing around Apex, for example, and I can then immediately go see and then select that asset to look at further.
So what we've seen here is different ways that we can actually search, hence it's being smart. So there's different ways that we can search for the tags, for the data. Let's say the comment that you made there around Apex could be within the title, could be within the text, could be within the tags itself, whatever the card may be, to actually then create that filter and drill down. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I really like, because there's been several iterations of how we actually do the filtering, specifically around the black book. I know Franco actually did one that just filters on the demo tags, because that's what he was most interested in. Whereas the smart filters, as you said, it will do the search not only on the demo tags, but also on, say, the status or whatever it is across multiple things, because sometimes you don't know the context that you're looking for. It could be in the title, could be in the demo tags, and it's just a more flexible way of finding information.
Cool. So great that we can see this and put this in context of the black book. And this, actually, I like what you're showing in terms of the data set as well. But can we go through and actually start from scratch? If I'm doing this from the beginning, what does that look like in terms of how do I actually create this smart filter?
As not a database guy, there's a lot of select stuff from where A equals B or C equals D or F. Is that how it works?
Yeah, no, look, as I go through this, you will actually see I don't even need, just to get it up and going, I don't even have to add any code in. And I'm doing this by just going through the wizard. So if you see on your screen, I'll walk through the wizard. I'll actually choose that I want to actually include a smart filter page. I'll just name that FTS Smart Filters and walk through. So I want to add in navigation on the application itself. So I'll select that one.
Is that a new page template in the latest version, I think?
I beg your pardon? Sorry, what was that?
Smart filters, that's a new page template that's been added recently?
Yeah, so smart filters came in on, I think, 21.2, was first introduced in 21.2. Now I'm actually using, I think, probably a version behind of what's out there at the moment. And there's been even more enhancements in the 22.2 version, or whatever is out there at the moment. So on your screen at the moment, you then have the capability of choosing what your source is. If it's tables or SQL queries, this is where if you're funky enough in non-SQL querying, you know your data very well, you can actually type in your SQL codes. I'm just going to choose the tables, which is the demo tables, and automatically, this is the smarts behind the scenes. It's already looking at the data dictionary statistics and offered the top 5 filters to include as what you see in the application page as chips. suggestion filters, in other words. So I can look through, choose whether or not I want to accept that. I'm just going to deselect one of them, and I want to represent the data in cards. So if I go through that, and then this is just where do I want to see things in the page, I might want to go in and choose some of these that I've done and create it.
Okay, so what you've done then, those two steps, I saw the data set in terms of the demo data, and that in itself has descriptions and URLs and all the data that you need. But then it actually went through almost using the statistics of the dictionary to figure out, okay, what are ones that are searchable, that are created almost like these categories that you could actually, that makes sense to create as tags. Because I did notice that there was the description there, but it found it was a glob and chose not to include it because every description will be different.
Yeah, so that's the key thing, what makes sense. And that's how it's done it. It's just gone through your data dictionary and just picked up what makes sense to actually display as a filter.
Yeah.
And that saves a lot of time, because sometimes if you're doing, SQL scripts or whatnot, it's hard to actually understand as to what makes sense to show to the end user from a user experience perspective.
Yeah. And then I also saw that even though, like when you were doing the front end demonstration up front, was that I can still pick out Apex and could be in anything else within the card that I can pick up on and do that search. So it doesn't exclude, if you've got a chip there, it doesn't exclude other parts of the data set being used as well.
Yes, correct. So what you see after going through that wizard, all these filters that will be shown as chips on your page, and you'll actually see that, it's by default, and it's looked at the data type as well as to what makes sense to represent it in the checkbox. But then you can then go in and say, no, I don't want checkbox to be displayed. I want a different type of layout for the filter to be displayed to the end user. Also, based on that, whether it's distinct values, you can then go in and change this if we want to actually refine that filter even further. I noticed that sometimes if it's a numeric data, so for example, a good example would be salaries. So instead of it being distinct values, it'll put it as range, and it'll actually bucket up those ranges for 0 to 10,000, 10,000 to 50,000 for people to select buckets of numeric values, if you like.
So to draw a parallel to a different way that we've seen previously on Thursday with Franco, where we've shown the faceted search, then these chips are very similar to what the faceted search creates on the left-hand side with all the different categories that you can do there. So it's doing it's very similar, but the user experience of what you showed is very different.
Yeah, absolutely. The key thing, and I did have a look at the faceted search as well. It uses a lot more real estate on the page, using the smart filter where you've got it right at the top. You can even put it in the navigation bar. It just uses the space more efficiently, especially when you're on a mobile device. How that displays, you can see the difference of how much information versus how much filter space it uses on a mobile device.
Cool. So we've got to this step. So let's run it, or let's get to the end and see where we get up to.
Yeah. So we're almost there to what we originally saw. We can see the demo name, or sorry, the asset name, the tags, etc. It's got more asset difference. So the only difference between this one and the other one was it's got a filter on it. So things like there's some blank ones, and that doesn't make sense to actually show to an end user or somebody that's looking for information to show blank fields. So I can then go in and modify that even further. And also I want to actually show a description. At the moment, I'm only showing demo links or links to the asset. So I can go back into the development page and refine that a little bit better. So if I go into the search fields, which is the search results, and the first thing I want to do is modify that to include a little bit of filter. So instead of all the assets that we've got, I just want to focus on the OCI, those that have got OCI in it. So I'll put a where clause in there. And that's we're looking at the demo tags. Like OCI.
Yep.
And click OK. And the next thing I want to do is add that description as well. So in the cards, I'll put it in the secondary section, demo description. And the other thing I want to do is also display how many the counts of what comes back as I'm filtering it. Again, because our demo assets, the number is not as much, but if you can imagine if it's like hitting 50,000 employee records, for example, that comes very handy as well to actually have the count. So rather than going in and scrolling down to see, I can actually do a search, turn that on, and let's run that. And
that's a lot better.
Yeah. So that's exactly like that's exactly what we saw in the beginning. And you can see, apart from putting that where clause, I haven't had to do any coding. And of course, you can go in and modify the filters as well. You can actually add more complex filters if you like, or context to those filters. Heaps of things that you can do. You can, even if you don't like to see these chips, and some people don't because it just distracts them, you can turn this on and off as well.
Very cool. So I like how quickly you can get that, and even to Stuart's not being a database guy and queries is not his strong suit, then he can even use a smart filter. So I think that's very smart in terms of what it can do.
Stuart's not an Apex guy either. Hearing that, but it's not true.
No, I would say Apex. The funny thing is that as I asked that question, the weird one about the SQL, is that I find myself writing outrageously complicated SQL statements to search for this, but if this is blank, then don't search for that, and it gets ridiculous. I mean, what's quite nice about this, not only that weird search and how it implements it, and I'd love to know what it does, but also the fact that it just formatted those cards for you. Because again, I find even doing cards, you can spend hours putting a little bit of a bit there and a bit there and the tag. I love what it's done with it. It's just formatted the cards for you, because I spend way too long tweaking those things. So yes, it's quite nice. Even just that bit's quite nice. So
Franco, we can actually get Stuart doing other things apart from doing the layouts and use smart filter in everything that he does. So now that's cool. One of the things, so just to close it out with a couple of points, right? So Fauzi, what's a couple of things that you considered in terms of, let's say, where it best suits, and what are the things to consider when using smart filter?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, because that's one of the reasons why I actually originally started. I didn't start off. We started off. So cards are put, can be put in a single region, or they can be spread out across multiple regions in a page. And that's one of the things that I found as out of the box natively. Even the faceted search doesn't do well. You need to associate a smart filter to a specific region. So if you've got multiple regions on your page, there's workarounds or ways to actually get it to work, so that if you do a filter, it will filter across multiple regions in your page. So out of the box, that doesn't happen. Okay. And then the other thing is I just find that the intelligence of being able to have these filters automatically created, rather than typing in or going to the properties field to actually say this, this is a distinct, this is a checkbox. It's automatically done that for you based on some pretty intelligent stuff that's happening behind the scenes.
And also when you compare just how much real estate, I say real estate, but how much part of the screen that takes over because of that, then it actually makes it really compact. We also had a chat about different ways that it appears differently. So you got a couple of screenshots. I'm not necessarily sure it live, but you got a couple of screenshots of what this looks like on a mobile phone, right?
Yes, I do. So let me just minimize that screen for a second and bring up the PowerPoint slide.
Yeah.
So I think this one. So this is, I'll put that in. Are you okay to see that? Do you want me to put that in presentation?
Yeah, put that in presentation mode because, yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So on the left-hand side, this is what we basically would see, gives you an idea as what you'd see on a mobile device. So it'll shrink it a little bit. So it's very, very still compact. So this is the smart filter. Very easy. You've got a single search button at the top or search field at the top to actually do your searches. When you click on that search bar, the second image on the right-hand side shows you, the options and what we saw, the list of values that you choose specific to each column filter, if you like. Yeah. And you can still do the multiple search capabilities and free text, etc., in that single box. The alternative is if we looked at the sample faceted search, this is what you see. So as Jason mentioned, on the web application, in a browser interface, you typically see all these check boxes on your left-hand side. When you display in the mobile device, what you see is it's coming at the top. So you have to firstly go through all the filters, before you can actually go in and scroll down to actually see the results of those filters.
Yeah, so definitely makes that smart filter, even just having a small bar at the top, allow you to see those results, especially on a mobile phone. It's actually a better feature, a better component than the faceted search on mobile.
Yeah, it's quite true. I think it's all about the user experience as to what makes it better for them to efficiently search information without clutter.
Yeah. So thank you, Fauzi. I think probably what you've done with these other extensions in terms of the black book, that I think that's probably another session that we do another day. To go into how do we actually use smart filters in other ways. So anything else you want to share, Fauzi, Cogs, before we finish up and close up the recording?
Yeah. The only thing
questions we'll do after the recording stopped, but
yeah. So the only thing is I wish I had the newer version, because when you type in multiple word searches in, say, Google, and it'll come up with all these this information. In the latest version, you can actually do that. In this version, it's not, and it's very easy to actually just toggle on and off that capability in the newest version. So it's
on that note,
better and better.
If you want to test run that road test,
Yep.
apex.oracle.com, that's always on the most latest. In fact, there is an early adopter version of apex.oracle.com that has the even earlier latest release version that you can play with to test drive some of these things. So yeah, we're using our autonomous database in our tenancy for these demos, but apex.oracle.com is a good place to go and play with these kind of functions. So a shameless plug. Always.
Fantastic. Thank you, Fauzi, for spending the time going through what you've done with not just the red book of what we have been shown before, but also the black book, which I think we're going to release a URL soon, so we can that people can actually search up these artifacts and these demos in the real world. So I appreciate your time today.